Oh, all righty then. How we doing? How we doing? How we doing? Hey, everybody, how we doing? How we doing? Welcome to another episode of The Living Room. As usual, you're here with me, Andre, and my good friends, Philip and Mark. Well, Philip has a new alias, but we'll tell you all about that a little bit
Oh
later
yeah.
on.
Oh yeah.
But
New
welcome,
alias.
welcome, welcome.
Okay.
Welcome. Look, we're just here again another Sunday having a good Caribbean conversation with great people. You're here with us in the living room. If this is your first time you're on the We Global platform, this is the living room. Just hit share, whether you're on Facebook, on YouTube, on Twitter, on LinkedIn, wherever you are in your socials, we're there on Instagram as well. Just hit like, hit share, come in and join us as we have good old Caribbean conversation. How we doing, guys?
Keep him
Yeah.
up.
We didn't hear about this new alias, but anyhow.
Me too.
Me too.
Me too. A name is a very important thing.
Are you waiting? Are you waiting? I will let you tell your own story. You know, we all get to this week, man.
Did y'all have good? Oh, what this week? This week was
Or the last couple of weeks, but since the last show.
the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
I was chatting with a friend of mine. I said, you know what? I've been spending a lot of time in my head, and it's good to get out sometimes.
Oh, Lord.
A
But,
lot
you know,
of time in your head.
the universe of my head, as I call it.
What's going on there, man? You need to talk.
I always need to talk. No, I've just been. There's just some stuff I've been reading. I'll probably talk a little bit about it in the
Okay.
show, but some things I've been thinking about. Quite a bit. Me personally, but also in my parenting with my children as well. But yeah, and just my sort of nature and my character and so on. There's just a lot of sort of repositioning I'm trying to do.
Just getting a little bit. Okay.
Okay.
This can
No,
get very
I,
philosophical.
it's interesting, you know, because over the last couple of weeks, I was thinking, you know what? You know, I'm doing fairly okay in the career and that kind of stuff, but you want to go to the next level. And I'm thinking a little bit of some therapy, you know. I'm thinking that is probably good to get some therapy to unlock a few things that might be swirling around in your mind. And some of it might be holding me back too. You never know, you know.
Do it.
Hey,
Do it.
So I'm actually thinking about that. I know in our society it's a little bit taboo, especially with men in the Caribbean, because as soon as you hear therapy, you think, wait,
Yeah.
mad?
It's an interesting one.
But nothing to do with that. But I'm thinking about that actually. So it's interesting that you brought that up.
No, it's good. I remember a few years ago when our first son Kyle was in secondary school and really struggling. Kyle was born premature, as you guys know, at 31 weeks, and we could not figure out what was going on and what were really causing these challenges. And you know, we got in touch with Bliss, which is a charity that supports premature children here in the UK.
Okay.
And you know, me and my wife spent a number of weeks going and sitting down and talking to this counselor. And I'll tell you what, it probably is one of the best things that we've ever done, because sometimes you can sit there and try to figure it all out yourself. And you're right, Dre. You know, we come from a culture where, you know, I'm talking to nobody else. I work it out myself.
Exactly. I would say a fascinating thing there with you, Mark, because I remember the first time you told us about what y'all were going through and so on.
Yeah.
Kyle was probably at secondary school.
Yeah, absolutely.
This was years later.
Yeah. It's one of them taboo things. As soon as you hear a therapist, you know, as I say, from the time you hear that, you would think people would say, "Wait, this boy like he mad? I hear you going to a psychologist or a psychiatrist." We lump them all in the same thing. Mainly talking to mad people, and they're like, actually no, because and I was really thinking it through, because when you move from the Caribbean, especially you come to places like the UK or what have you, you got to reorient yourself completely to navigate this place.
It's a different culture.
It's a different culture, one, and then you're dealing with a lot of stuff too, because sometimes you're dealing with, as you guys would have as well, you know, you come here, you got your experience from the Caribbean, you're doing fairly good, but somehow when you come here, they discount it a little bit. So all of a sudden you're starting from a little bit behind, and you got to navigate that mentally and then move forward. You know what I mean? And so I was thinking, okay, doing pretty okay now, got to a good standard and a fairly good level, but you want to kick on and move to the next level. And I was thinking, I probably got a few things to unlock about how I approaching things personally, but there might be some things in there that kind of hold me back from doing so for whatever reason. So perhaps talking to somebody about it might be a good idea.
I think so too. Yeah, I mean, and you can expand that. Sometimes it can be your can be yourself that you talk to, and you sort of reason it out. It can be your family, your circle of friends, but it's also really good to have people either professional or
I
people
think
who
so.
have
I think
who sort of, as they say, have no skin in your game.
Oh,
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's good.
That helps massively.
Yeah.
As someone who trained to kind of guide you through a bit of the maze that you might be walking through in your head,
In
because
your head. Yeah.
one might take you a few years to talk out yourself, someone might help you guide through and fast track it a little bit to help you unlock a few things, so it's not a bad thing to bring it there, Phil. Good thing, because I was actually thinking the same thing over the last few weeks, and I was going to bring it up with you guys today as well, because I think it's important.
Good day to bring it up too.
I think it's very important that you think about these things.
So later on, I'll read you some of the poetic reflections on my mind.
Well, we know you always have reflections.
Oh, wow.
So that's all right.
We'll get there.
We'll get there. No, I think it's good. It's good. It's a good thing, man. Good thing.
It's good.
What else have been going on?
Well, just looking back home, there's been a lot of rumblings going on at home about this national register. And just be peeping into Barbados and see what's happening there, because that potentially has a real direct impact on all of us, So you got to keep a real close watch on what's going on there, man.
And our children.
Of course.
Oh, very much so. Very 100%. Much so. So some weird things happening at a speed that I'm not sure is necessary.
Some strange winds blowing, man. And trade winds no more. Some strange winds blowing, man.
And sometimes when you're thinking, especially with the politicians, as I'm sure our guests will tell us later, it's not what they say sometimes that you got to listen to, but you got to probe what they're not saying. And that's where you kind of spend your time and get the answers. And I think sometimes things can go along at such a pace and you're hearing a lot of noise, but it's what you're not saying that I find is like why you need to do this national ID card, at such a pace. And then why you seem to be demonizing people who got some questions about it as well.
Yeah.
I think that's very important, is the demonization of people who have valid questions, but somehow you're saying that, they're not valid.
This is a frustration that you find a lot in our society, where if I have questions as a citizen, look, I can ask questions. What's wrong with me asking a question? Certainly the responsibility of any decent politician is to try and stand up and be credible and answer the questions that people are asking of them. But we always seem to go into this position of, you shouldn't be asking these questions. Why you asking these questions? Why not?
Exactly.
Why not?
Or I'm the leader. I know what I'm doing.
I know best.
Just shut up and wait to see what comes down the pipe, because I know what I'm doing, kind of thing, which very often turns out not to be the case. But that seems to be the thing that you get. And the funny thing is that you guys hear me talk about it a lot, because sometimes we go after what I call the trappings of development, those things that you see that seems to suggest or indicate development, and we forget the journey that the countries that we look at went through to get to this point. And there's certain foundational and operational things that need to go in place first before we do some of these things. But yet we run headlong into them and then ask us to, hush up.
Well, sometimes I challenge that. I agree with what you're saying, but sometimes I would challenge that, because if you have other countries that have done it, and if you can find the right reference model, you can accelerate some of your development, because you have learnings that you can draw from. But I do think where I 90% agree with you is that we choose the wrong reference models.
Exactly.
We choose the wrong references.
That's the point.
Yeah. Everything in for we. Everything in for we. We Caribbean people, and we fairly unique in a lot of ways.
Exactly.
And stranger.
And we need to lean into the fact that we are unique, and then adapt things to suit our situation and our unique nuances and what have you, and not just try to wholesale bring something in and then pull the wool over people's eyes. Very often it's not as it seems.
Or find the right studies that are a lot similar to us in terms of scale, in terms of economy, in terms of demographics and topology as well. The Caribbean is very distinctive in terms of that layout. Separation of water is an important thing mentally for people and societies. And there are only a few other places where you get even politically, countries and nations that are politically linked, right? that are separated by water.
Mm.
If you think of the European Union, that was created, but separation by water is only very few nations who were part of the European Union
Yes.
and have stepped out.
So you want it already separated by water.
Exactly.
Very, very skillfully managed there.
Yeah. So when the cost of movement between nations is too high and the constraints are high, then mentally you say, what's the sense of pretending to be one?
Indeed.
Interesting.
Good point.
Yeah, that caught my eye this week. Yeah, we got definitely have a conversation in the living room around where all that's going for sure.
Yeah. One of the other things that caught my eye as well in Barbados. So funny enough, is in Barbados now, but I think it was in Trinidad as well a few weeks ago. Is that I realized we're doing very soccer monarch competitions and what have you, which is something that happened in Trinidad as well. Albeit we announced it a few months earlier in Trinidad, it seemed to be a bit of a surprise. And we had a lot of conversations as to whether or not competition is killing the development of the music to move forward. So I find it an interesting move in Barbados, albeit I think the reason is to spread the money to the artists as opposed to having competition and one person winning a whole heap of money and that kind of stuff. I ain't too sure about that one, but it's interesting to see the movement of what could be the movement away from soca competitions as we saw in Trinidad, and now we're seeing in Barbados as well. I thought that's interesting. So it'd be interesting to see where the music goes.
Let's see what else accompanies that that particular issue in terms of how much wider exposure and royalties our musicians will actually be getting by way of trying to create the right conditions. Because
I see Brian says a good idea. I don't disagree, Brian. I it could be. It's just I just watching to see what's happening and how it will develop. I'm a big proponent that you don't need a competition for everything. I think the seasonality of carnivals and stuff as well hampers soca a little bit too, and I think competitions hamper soca a bit. All that said, it was good to see. Who was it that was at the basketball? This at the Raptors, I think it was Patrice. It was good to see Patrice at the basketball as well. That was brilliant to see.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Sorry about that.
Distracted. No worries at all. Yeah, I saw that.
Okay.
I saw you distracted. That's fine.
Yeah.
But good stuff.
No, you guys carry on. I'll watch what's happening here.
No worries at all. But look.
Okay.
So a whole heap of stuff. Eddie Grant birthday as well, I think today or yesterday. So happy birthday to the legend as Eddie Grant. We're trying to get him on the show. We've been trying for ages. Quite some time to get him.
So if any of you up there.
Well, I think we have the details, the necessary details. It's just to get the leaning in. Leaning in. And some may wonder what we're talking about. And look, as we look to bring in our guests as well, as I said to some, if this is your first time here, Young We Global, this is just the living room where you are. The three of us are good friends from Barbados. Though this is not a Barbados show by any stretch of the imagination. It's a Caribbean show that we have. And you're in our living room and you're inviting us. And every now and then we bring in guests to have a chat with us as well. We don't do interviews. We have conversations. And we believe it's bringing the Caribbean closer together, one conversation at a time. And one of the things that we do as well is have conversations with who we call legends of the region. Because I don't think we should wait till external companies and what have you honor our legends. We should do so ourselves. And we have a series called Living Legends. So we have a wall. You can see the people from the Caribbean that we've had in, from King David Rudder, Michael Golding, Alison Hines, Jennifer Houston, who is the first non-white person to win one of the major beauty pageants in 1970. The mighty Gabby, Winsford Devine, and the guys from Trinidad, you would know him, a great calypso writer. We honored him as well. It was with Crazy, Gabby, and David Rudder. It was just after he had passed. That was a fantastic show. So you can see that. The Caribbean man himself, although he would always tell you that that's Black Stallion and not him. Julian Rogers, we had him on. And just last week, we had Alan Emptage. And many people may not even know who Alan Emptage is. But if you do searches on Google or Yahoo or wherever else, believe it or not, it was a Bajan, a Caribbean man, a West Indian, who is considered the godfather of search engines. He's inducted into the Internet Hall of Fame. Everything that we have now, right away from when it was Alta Vista and Lycos back in the day, AJ myself, all the way to what we have now with Google, and even going forward, Chat GPT is built upon what a West Indian created. Not many people know that, but it was, and we had him in. Great show. So if you want, you can go on our websites, or you can go on YouTube or Facebook and have a look. All those shows are there. Fantastic shows. Just go through them and just learn about our Caribbean people. Very relaxed interviews, very relaxed conversations as well. Okay, so I think we are ready to have our guests. You know, sometimes when you see people, you go like, interesting person. And I've always wanted to make sure, we've always wanted to make sure that we got the amazing Natalee Legore from Trinidad, by way of Jamaica.
She's more than amazing, man. She's more than amazing.
More than,
amazing is downplaying it.
I thought amazing is quite a good word. But...
Oh, man.
You want to use a different superlative there,
you go ahead.
I don't know. I'll let you use that. But look, she's an amazing journalist in Trinidad, by way of Jamaica, of course. Don't let me get beat for saying that, not saying that. And a very interesting person as well. And we've been trying to get on the show for quite some time, but I believe all things come in good time, and it comes at the right time. I think now is the right time for us to have a chat, a conversation, talking about her journey, all the stuff that has made her who she is today. We're talking about the great. That's good, Mark? I don't know.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Natalee Legore. So let's bring her in and have a conversation. Guys, if you can, do us a favor, hit share, bring as many as your network in, and be part of the conversation. The chat is there. We put some stuff up there as well. If you want to ask questions or what have you, feel free to do that and jump in the chat and have a conversation as well, because we'll monitor it and put stuff up if it needs to be. So let's bring Natalee in.
Awesome.
Yo.
Hey. Good evening.
Who are you all introduced to?
The amazing.
You hear that?
I'm not surprised by Philip's comment, though. I have to say.
Why is this?
What do you mean?
I mean, I'll get back to that another time.
No, tell me, start. Let me start the show hot.
Drink water and mind my business.
I listen.
Only with Philip I get my English accent. With the rest of them, I'm strictly Jamaican.
Well, I was saying very posh from when we were backstage. I was like, the poshness come out there now.
I see
noted.
I see where this is
That's
going.
noted. That's noted.
Oh,
Anyhow,
that's noted.
Welcome to our living room, man. Welcome to the living room.
Welcome, Natalee.
Thank you so much.
How are you, man? How are things?
I'm sleepy, but otherwise good. Sleepy, but good.
Good Sunday?
Okay.
So far?
Yeah, me done cook already. Mind you, we probably have something to do around the place.
Where you whip up today?
Huh?
Okay,
so I did some black-eyed peas cook-up, some fried chicken, some stir-fried bodie with carrots, and I have a little cucumber salad on the side with a little bit of white sorrel. Yeah.
So, wait, the accent on, so only one, but again, invite.
Talking to me.
This song good. White sorrel as well.
Yeah.
That's the green one. The one, you have
I know it. I know it well.
Yeah.
But I don't hear a lot of people using it. That's why I was like, okay.
Oh yeah. My Trinity parents do plant some, so I get when they have.
Wow.
Hi, Auntie Allison. I get it.
Yeah, man. We got a lot of love here for you in the chat already, as we would expect, Natalee.
Indeed.
So listen, we kind of headline this with your life, your experiences, and your journey, because there's so much to you, and we're going to spend a little bit of time kind of seeing where we get to this evening. But I know a lot of our Trinity family here who are with us this evening are very familiar with your work. But I want to go back a little bit about, I want to go back to the Jamaica leg of your journey in the early years, and let's get to know Natalee before you actually got to that place of being the fantastic journalist that you are at the moment. So take us back a little bit.
I'm a country girl. Grew up with my grandmother and her entire side of the family, my dad, aunts, uncles, cousins. Yeah, a couple of dogs, cats, fowls. It was a big yard. It was a small house, but a really big yard. So kind of grew up in that environment. There are many parts of my childhood that I really enjoyed because we played a lot, my cousins and I. And I think I can't remember if my grandmother beat me outside of this experience, but I remember two of my cousins and I going, your country, right? So you don't see that barbed wire fence means absolutely nothing to you as a child. You don't think this is your land and that is somebody else's land. So we went over by Mr. Burns, figure pick star apple. Oh, you call it kimit. Trinis call it kimit. We call it star apple, that purple fruit with that nice pulp inside, and it stains up all your lips when you eat it, that fruit. So my male cousin was in the tree picking the fruits, and me and my female cousin on the ground a catch because we call it a very mean fruit. It never falls off the tree.
Okay. Very mean.
You got to go up and get it.
A kimit never. If anybody can tell me they've gotten a good kimit on the ground, I want to visit that tree because I'd like to get it without all the hassle that I went through on Mr. Burns' property. Because he came with a bird gun. And my cousin, yes, because he was one of those fellas. And my cousin was like, Mr. Burns. And we decided to take off Mr. Burns. Said, if you run, I shoot you. It was like, well, you better shoot.
Better shoot quick.
And left our cousin in the tree.
Wow. But I like that metaphor of a small house in a big yard because that song it speaks a lot about community. So was there a real community vibe growing up? You grew up with your grandmother, but there was loads of cousins, neighbors, friends gathering.
Definitely. My grandmother was like that. My grandmother is the person who you can hardly find enough money to feed your family, but it doesn't stop you from feeding the neighbors. That was our life.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like I can legit think of at least 4 different households where my grandmother provided a meal for every single solitary day, even though we were struggling.
Wow.
I didn't know at the time we were struggling, but you grow up and you get to that place of discernment and you look back at just what you had. We were so poor, but I didn't know it. I thought everybody lived like that.
But that's the great thing of the grandparents in the Caribbean, isn't it? There's no such thing of no matter your circumstances, if it is poor, there's no such thing as feeling poor. They won't allow it, either in what you have around you or even mentally. They won't allow you to even feel poor or inferior to anyone else or anything else. And it didn't stop them from sharing with everyone around them as well.
Yeah, that's definitely how she was. She was to date probably the person, not probably the person I've loved the most in my entire life. She's always,
Oh wow. And is she still around?
She was a gentle and resilient and hardworking grandmother.
Okay,
that's who she was.
So she's the person who had the biggest influence on your life.
Oh, most definitely. I mean, I have other she influenced me more than my mother because I didn't live with my mom. I lived with her. I lived with her and my dad and my dad's sisters and brothers and my cousins by that side. I didn't live with my mother, but she was my main influence. Like you'd see this woman get up every single morning, turn on the lamp, start sewing. She was a seamstress. So until a certain hour, get up, take the trek to the kitchen, country life and poor life. Your house is there, your kitchen is there, your toilet is there, your standpipe is there, your drum is there. That's the life, right? And she would get up, sew, then go to the kitchen, make breakfast for all of us so that we could go to school. And then by the sew during the day, cut off at a point, make dinner. And everything that was her life for us.
Wow. And those school days, I wonder what kind of student you was, I wonder if you was a good girl at school.
Academically, I've always been. Behavior-wise, I don't think the teachers were ready for me.
Oh wow!
In what way though? Is answering back, or you don't look like you were?
You was a troublemaker,
man. You just look like you stand up for yourself.
Consider myself. That's there we go.
Self-assertive.
You grow up in a culture that teaches you that you cannot express yourself as a child. Children are to be seen and not heard. We heard that since before we could even understand words. Right? So when you're that child who will express yourself, you are told you're feisty, you're not manners, you're out of order. It didn't make a difference what you were saying. The fact that you dared to ask an adult something if they tell you to do something was problematic. So, darling, I have been in problems since before I could even talk.
Wow.
Because I can imagine that in sitting well with you.
No, because as we're all different, we're different children. So people have to understand that, because I might have a cousin here who will just say, yes, ma, no, ma, I move. I might be, why do you want me to do that?
That's not you. That's not you.
Okay.
It has never been.
Yeah. And with your coming back to your grandmother, because you defined your grandmother as a gentle sort of lady.
But I'd still ask her.
Okay. And how did that play out?
My grandmother would be like, well, I'm going to do what I tell you to do.
I just needed to come back to reality here.
She was amazing.
Yeah.
Like, and she wasn't one of those grandmothers who was physically abusive. Like, if my grandmother beat us, nobody questioned anything. If any of our aunts beat us, we sit down and chat about it. It'd be like, oh, I'm call lick, man, no do nothing. You wouldn't do that when your granny hit you because you knew you deserved it. You know? So, to me, the Caribbean culture of parenting, and this is from my experience, I can't speak on behalf of anybody else. I can't try to speak on behalf of anybody else, but Jesus Christ, we need help. We need some serious help.
Yep.
My grandmother, to me, was the exception to the rule because my daddy wasn't like that. No, mind you, my father has never been physically violent with me. I think I can remember my father slapping me twice in my life. But I mean, growing up a child, to me, the issue we have is that we start having children when we are children.
Okay.
Two, we mimic what we see around us. So there's no questioning parenting and what we should change. And I think I'm going to do a stereotypical argument. I think a lot of Caribbean parents do that. We don't question things. We just go with the flow. So if my grandmother did this, I did it. And if I did it, we want to ensure that our children do it without questioning whether or not it's good for the child, whether or not if it's in the child's best interest. We have to cut out that bullshit because it's not working.
Change is a real hard thing because there are only two reasons that you change. And the reasons that you change are either because you've seen something so positively different that you're swayed, or you've been through something so difficult that you say, I can't go down that route, right? So and as human beings, we copy, we're imitators. That's the way we actually learn. We actually don't really learn that much from reading. We learn a lot from seeing,
imitating and the environment.
But I think any good, and I'm putting the word good there because I think it's important. I think any good parent, regardless of how they grew up and regardless of what they were taught, would want to deviate from anything that they didn't like for themselves.
I think so too, yeah.
So if you're not doing that, something is fundamentally wrong. If I grew up, now let's say I grew up with a father who neglected me.
Yeah.
You think I'm going to have a child and neglect that child? Understanding fully how that neglect affects me, not affected, affects me.
But I think, I 100% agree with that because to a certain extent I'm like that. But I don't think I don't think it's that easy at a quote unquote global level to make that change or accept that there's change to be made, because there's a point where you might think, but this is normal. And sometimes what happens is that a lot of the issues that you might have been experiencing has helped shape you unwittingly. And sometimes you unfortunately end up revisiting the same thing upon your children or grandchildren or whomever when you get older, even though not intentional. So that's
I definitely accept that. I accept that there's a part of me that firmly believes that them don't know better, so them can't do no better. But but there's also the part of me that says you're not stupid. Nobody
Agree
has
with
to
that.
give a blueprint, right? What your parents learned along the way, when the grandchildren come, they never repeat it, right? You ever notice how grandmothers and grandfathers treat children?
Yeah.
It's never the way your parents treat you because they had
Very
that
true.
Because they've no understood.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
They've
so
learned.
let's say you're a first time parent, so you don't have that experience yet. The first child and the second child never gets treated the same way either because you have some
It's true.
experience.
It's true.
Okay? It never the first child always has the hardest life amongst all the children.
This is true.
Always.
Very, very true.
But they also are the most loved. And we have to be realistic about these things, because when that parent comes into the realization of what he or she has done and don't know how to apologize, they just love you. They love you more than any of their other children. They won't admit it. They won't say it because Caribbean parents, how dare they tell you that they love you? Some of them will, but it's not the culture.
It's not in us. No.
Yeah. It's true.
It's not the culture.
That's very true. And that's something
you.
that I personally changed in dealing with my daughters, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, no, why?
Yeah, to your point, I'm 100% agreeing with you, but not
no,
everyone.
To your point, tell me why you changed it.
See, the journalist coming out now.
Yeah.
Reverse interview now. No, I changed it because it was not something that I saw but knew that should happen, and it's something that I know that is right for my children to understand that.
So how
and for
did
me
you
to
know? What is it? All right, this is not you doing no interview, nothing. But what is it? No, because you see, we're having the discussion, and
I agree.
It's
we having the conversation. Yeah.
We have to understand what it is that made us decide that even though we didn't see this thing, that it was important for us to do it. What was your trigger? Were you affected by the fact that you did not hear "I love you"? Did it affect you psychologically?
But could be, which is why at the opening I was saying,
yes,
I need to go talk to somebody to unlock a few things that perhaps might be holding me back that I don't know. So I think implicitly I know that is the case, but probably just need to talk it through.
Yeah.
So there's one of the things that fell out of my head as I was running around in there. Your first child is not your firstborn. Your first child is actually you.
Yes.
Right? And the thing is, and I think that's how we start to recognize what a step up in parenting needs to look at in terms of how we turn around then once we are adults and we are no longer dependent on another adult or parent to discipline us, to guide us, to inspire us, to give us boundaries and so on. The way that we start to approach that starts to reflect on what parenting should be like, right? Because if we start to recognize what are the things that inspire me, what are the things that actually keep me within, let's call it safe for now, safe boundaries, or what are the things that keep me disciplined? And by discipline, I don't mean punishment. By discipline, I mean being very aware of personal responsibility, right? And the impact of actions and decisions and intentions. That is the first. We are our first child. It's kind of one of the things that I'm reasoning with. Yeah.
But do you think that your first birthed child allows you to recognize the shortcomings in yourself?
100%.
Yes, because you start to see yourself reflected in them a lot.
So what do you think happened with my father? Because he never got that.
Don't know.
Yeah. But I mean that goes back to the thing that you're saying. You sort of have to go on. You go.
I'm asking because you're men, so maybe there's from a female as a woman, maybe there's something that I don't understand because we think differently. You understand? We do think differently, and so maybe the way I see it is not the way y'all would see it.
True.
Do we think differently or do we express differently?
I think we also think differently about stuff.
I think we think about the same things, but we think differently
but
about the same things.
I do believe so.
As well as express differently about the same things.
Well, we know for a fact that we express differently. And it's because we think differently about it why we express differently how we express it.
I agree.
I'll come back to that because that's another thing that's going through my head.
who I sent the live link to. My apologies, but please go to West Indies Global on Facebook. I see my brother even calling me now.
Yeah.
Those of you on the live, just share it and tell people where they can find it, please.
Yeah.
We'd appreciate that,
Indeed.
because this is a conversation that we all need to have.
We do.
And even if we grew up in better circumstances than I am describing, the reality is that we know that our socioeconomic conditions really affect our upbringing too.
Yes.
That impacts, what exposure we got, and so therefore what we know we should expect. And so maybe that too, contributed to my circumstances. But
So,
I can't say, because I have people in my family who probably don't feel the way I do. They don't feel as if I can tell you, I shared a post on Facebook because I just could not sleep. And I was crying so much, and I decided to just share this post talking about, the relationship with my father.
Yes.
And I can guarantee you this on my life, without speaking to anybody on my father's side, that they'll never sit and talk about what I expressed, but they'll sit and talk about the fact that I shared it publicly. It's a guarantee. Because how dare you? Because that's Caribbean culture. You want to come and wash your dirty laundry in public?
Yeah.
Hell no.
We've defined normal as suppression.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, the thing is, we don't even talk about the dirty laundry amongst ourselves. So sharing it in public is definitely a no-no.
Well, look, I wanna come back to some of this family stuff further down the line, right, Natalee?
Yeah.
But it is very clear a lot of your journalistic excellence is starting to come out, because you're here pushing us. So help me to understand, at what point along your journey did you start to discover this curiosity about wanting to, I want to know more, and wanting to probe beyond what you were just seeing? Where did that come from?
Since I was a child.
Oh, wow.
And I kid you not, any one of my cousins will know me, will tell you that I would be in that latrine with newspapers practicing to read. That's what I did as a child when I wasn't playing. And it's because I saw these people on television, and they were so well spoken. And, they represented this thing that I didn't see in my community. It was not there in my community, but it was on the television. And my small brain, and the thing is that you aren't processing at that age that this is what you're doing. But I did it. You do these things either unconsciously or subconsciously. Decide that you don't want this that you have now, that you needed more. Yeah. So if I'm in a toilet as a child reading a newspaper and reading aloud to hear myself, it's because obviously I've already made the decision that where I'm at isn't good enough.
No,
will your family understand that? No, because they're going to feel as if you're saying they aren't good enough. It doesn't change how much I love them, and I would never, ever, ever change where I'm from and who my family is. What I want them to do is to accept that sometimes even their best was never good enough. It's okay. It's okay to say that my best is not good enough. No matter how great of a journalist you think I am, darling, there are millions of people out there who are better than I am.
Yeah.
And there are millions of people who are not as good as I am. So why are we so afraid to recognize our shortcomings? How do you grow then? How the hell do you grow?
Agree. Now, you're in Trinidad, and obviously been there for quite some time. But before Trinidad, where did you start your professional journalistic journey? In Trinidad. Okay. So tell me about the move to Trinidad. Tell me about the move to Trinidad. What said, I'm in Jamaica, but I'm going to Trinidad?
Not always an easy move.
All right.
And what year was this?
I'll give you a long, short story. When I was 22 years old, I applied to the University of the West Indies, and I got accepted. And this is why
St. Augustine.
I got accepted, but this story is to let people know that you have to learn to accept that you don't know everything. That's rule number one, and that you always need help. So I applied to the UA, but I applied for media and communication, not knowing that there was an external exam apart from the application process that had to be done. So they accepted me and placed me in language communication and the arts. I went to UA one day and I was so overwhelmed I did not go back.
Oh wow.
I feel that.
At 26, after buying my house and figuring that, okay, I'd achieved something, I was like, okay, let me go back. And it's because I applied for a job. They accepted me for the job and did not want to pay me what I wanted. And that things, when things happen to me, I try to recover from them. And I try to recover from them by ensuring that I fix the situation. Recovering from them isn't cussing people, even though I do that sometimes. And but that can't be the be all and end all. So as like, thank you, but no thank you. And when I left that place, I went straight online to go and apply to UA. And this time I knew that there was an external exam that needed to be done, and I got accepted. So in getting accepted to UA, this time I was ready. I wasn't ready before at 22. Parents don't understand that.
Yeah.
Listen,
for one day, them disappointed. Nobody's asking you, Natalie, why did you decide not to go? Nobody has ever asked me that.
I know
They
that
just-
feeling because
They just decide that if you didn't go, something wrong with you, and parents are work hard and I spend them money, fist and you go to school and look, you go and you drop out. I did not drop out. I told them they have to defer because I was so overwhelmed. I felt lost. I spent the entire day walking up and down on campus and achieving little to nothing.
I know exactly the feeling. My first day at KFL was, I was like, what is this? I think my first semester, I failed every single course. I had no clue how to navigate it and just had to figure it out in some form or fashion and ended up getting through it, muddling through it, at least my first year and a half. But it is extremely overwhelming when you first go to UA.
So when I did the degree, I had to do internship. Okay, I'd like to do the internship outside it. I know what Jamaican media is like. I love Jamaican media, but again, if you want to grow, you can't be afraid to take risks.
Agree.
Okay.
100%.
So I decided to apply to CNN because my chest big, my chest big.
Get in.
All right.
Yeah.
You gotta go for it. I with you.
I try not to limit myself. Okay. I try not to limit myself as much as possible. And when I went to the US Embassy, I applied for the wrong visa and they told me to come back,
Oh,
and
wow.
I did.
Wow.
Yes, they literally told me this is the visa you need to apply for. So come back. And I did not go back to the US Embassy.
Why didn't you go back?
I don't know. I did not go. I just did not go back. I had a friend who was at UA at the time. She's Trinidadian. She's Trinidadian, Rachel and Charles. And she was just here. Hi, Rachel. She just left. She came for a little vacation and she just went back to England this morning. And I said, she was like, you could come because I-95 is really good because I specialized in radio. And I was like, okay. And so I reached out to some people in I-95 and they was like, yeah, you can come and do the internship here. I-95 love free labor. They were never going to say no. It's true. It's true. They're really good people, but they love free labor. That's the truth. So I came and I did the internship. And during the internship, I got a job offer from I-95.5 FM.
Right.
So, and I was like, I was like, nah, let me go and finish the degree because I had a year left in the program because I told them if somebody else comes who is more qualified, then I get pushed to the side. Yes. I don't know how I understood these things so early in life, but I did. And so I went back and finished the degree. And when I was finishing up, I was like, them people that did offer me a job. Let me see if my son, I'm going to write up a nice letter. Dear this, that. On this, that, and blah, blah, blah. And I got a reply. The board will meet and we'll get back to you.
Oh.
Off and running.
No, I got a yes. And Mr. Man, I didn't sell my car. I pack up my house, I move my furniture, went to my grandmother's house, what to my brother, what to my parents, what to my friends. Me unpack the entire house and decide to rent it. And I just moved. There wasn't any children to be considerate of, and I just took the plunge.
Wow.
Okay. What kind of did you do? Current affairs at I-95? What did you do? You
strictly current affairs. I did talk show for the 9 years that I spent at I-95. I did talk radio.
Got it. What was your reception like on Trini Radio?
They threw me straight in the deep, straight on air to do a program. My first program, and it was prime time. It was the afternoon drive.
Oh, drive time.
Worked in I-95 was the afternoon drive with Darian Marcel and Nixon.
Okay.
And it was so much fun. Listen,
everybody listening now.
Of myself because I remember after 2 years we got an award for the most improved programs because our ratings went up so much. And to this day, people must give people them accolades and stop act like if them tell you say you're good. All of a sudden, your head big, your head yo, me work hard for it.
Yeah, man.
I work for it. Nobody never give it to me. Me work for it. So there's absolutely nothing wrong with you telling me, yo, Natalee, you're good enough. Yeah, man, thanks.
Fully deserved.
100%.
100%.
So what was that culture?
What was that
go ahead, Mark.
relationship? Because we often know that there's a little bit of tension, healthy tension, as I like to call it, between the Jamaicans and Trinis. It can, it can be a little bit of healthy tension. What was that? What was that like?
No, let me put this disclaimer.
North and South.
Put it out.
Trinbagonians over the years have come to love me, and they are so good to me. Most of them. Yeah, you still have some dirty people. That's life. All right.
Can't do nothing with that.
But when I just started, them tell me if you take me lupus PUSSY and go back to Jamaica. Them tell me, say, remember a day, And me say, Lord, God me tongue because them don't know me yet. God me tongue. Me say, Jesus, don't make them pull me tongue. I remember one day a woman, them used to send all type of nasty text messages to the text board. And one day, the straw that broke the camel's back, a woman called. I don't know why Louis Leasing hired this choppy Jamaican. I said, ma'am, if he wanted a choppy Trinidadian, he'd hire you. And that's when people realize, I tell them, yo,
you don't play.
Yes, you just love me. I am here. And one of the things they did a lot was, you don't know the culture. You don't know the culture. I was happy that I didn't know the culture because then you could not instill your biases. People don't understand the good things of these things,
You completely...
You can't instill your biases if I don't know the culture. Leave me, let me learn the culture on my terms.
Yes,
that's why they love me now.
And bring a different perspective as well.
Yes,
that's a good thing.
I had people from political parties inviting me. Natalee, just want to sit down and tell you about the party. Oh, no, thank you. I'll just take my time and learn. Of course.
Trying to soften you up.
Of course.
I don't want nobody to soften me up.
So she can go easy on us.
Go easy on us.
I don't want anybody to soften me up. I love me the way I am because this is how God made me. This is not me working on myself over the years. Things that I do come naturally to me.
But tension aside, culturally, how did you find the transition moving to Trinidad? What did you find you needed to change, understand, to immerse yourself in the culture?
Because he might be moving down. He might be moving down there right now.
See this now? They're always calling me a Trinidadian, but
he's Bajan, so it might be different for him. And let me tell you something. The tension between Jamaicans and the Trini, it exists between Bajans and everybody. So not to pull the argument.
This is true.
Yeah,
this is true.
It's between Jamaicans and Trinis, but it is between Bajans and Jamaicans, Trini, Guyanese. Yo,
everybody else.
Everybody love me. Everybody. We choose to call it love. That's what we choose to call it. How you approach it determines how you react to it.
The Caribbean believes that Bajans are highfalutin. They believe that Jamaicans are very aggressive but patriotic. That Trinis, and this is true, just love to complain and make a bacchanal and have a good time.
Yes,
and I don't know what Guyanese do. I don't know what Guyanese do. Probably just say, hey, bye.
Hey, bye.
Oh Lord,
Nice one.
being in trouble, yeah.
You know.
Yeah. But I'll tell you one of the things that the language was different, right? So, like one day, I'd hear people speak off camera that they're going by Miss Ingrid to buy bacon pum pum. No, Jamaica pum pum is a Jamaican word, right? I know it means vagina, but I never even. So one day they're like, "Oh, let's do some other words for saltfish," and somebody was like bacalao, and others like Natalee, and I was like pum pum. And oh my God, the radio went crazy. They could not stop laughing. Or this is a true story. I have a Jamaican friend who is married to a Trini. His name is Steve Smith. He's Jamaican. His wife Trisha is Trini, right? They just happen to live Vancouver. Steve and Trisha invited me down one weekend to come and just lime with them, and I said, all right, yes, I went. I love sugarcane. Love. Right. It's not a fruit, but God knows it's my favorite or grass, whatever you call it. And so when I went back to work the Monday, John Gill asked me, so that's what you did over the weekend? I said, boy, I went to Vancouver, go look for something. He said, for cane? I'm going to say, yes. There's a whole song about going to Vancouver for cane.
Is there?
Okay. You had no clue. You had no clue.
Absolutely no clue.
Watch it out.
So I've had quite a few of those moments live on
right.
Yeah.
I like that.
And he was like, is Kane you go for? And I was like, yeah, I went for Kane.
Yeah.
And it took me so long to get
just rolling off the tongue.
That's
right. Listen, man, it took me so long to get it. But I like to take my time in like going out. So I still don't know most of Trinidad because I got robbed. My apartment, there was an attempted break-in by my apartment. My apartment was eventually burglarized. Then I had a vandalism of a vehicle that wasn't mine and my handbag stolen. So I had those experiences, and I remember doing a live video about it. Yeah, you want to come here and chat about crime? What making a chat about crime in Jamaica? Go back, but they murder you over there.
Of course, you get that.
Trinis can be extremely loving and they can be extremely destructive, like literally. And the same person can be both loving and destructive in this. It's like a bipolar relationship with some of them. Wow. This minute, gosh, Cal, we love you. Give it to them. I can't take this Jamaican gal. I don't know how she does the radio.
All in the same stream.
But how did those two incidents affect you? Being burglarized and then having your car vandalized. What did that do to you in terms of your?
I was angry because I said people talk about crime in Jamaica all the time and have never experienced crime in Jamaica. And yet I experienced it 4 or 5 times here in the first 4 years. Actually.
But before that, you said that you haven't seen a lot of Trinidad. Did those two incidents impact your want to venture out?
No, I will, but it's just with whom and where.
Okay.
When I came, one of the first things I heard is that don't go Laventille. So then there was this story that, Dale was asking me to cover. And I heard the word Laventille and I was like, no, so I'm not go. Because that's what I heard when I just came here, that these are places that you avoid. So then apart from the highway, I've never been inside Beetham Gardens. I've only been to Sea Lots once to do a radio program. So if I have to go for work after settling in, then I would. But I wouldn't volunteer. It's just like what I tell somebody going to Jamaica, like, where you go a Waterhouse, go to our jungle, our Rima. Mr. Man, stay upon it straight and narrow. If you understand that these places have bad reputations, it's not for you to go and try to figure it out. Don't go there. Avoid the place. Stay at New Kingston. New Kingston, nice.
So listen, there came a point when you moved off of radio and went on to television.
Yes. Yes.
How did that happen? Yeah.
Yeah. Tell us about the transition.
Well, somebody called me for a job.
Hey, you get big now.
Yes. I mean, I was just on radio, and I remember I went to Tony, and I was like, Tony, if you make me an offer, I'll stay. But oh God, you pay. If Tony had made me an offer at the time, I would have stayed in radio. I love radio, and I appreciate working at I-95 because to me, it is the most press freedom I've enjoyed in this country.
Wow.
I did not get it at all in television. I'm in a business. Television is different because everybody is watching your expressions now. They know what you're thinking, especially me, because I'll be in the middle of an interview and somebody talking and my eyes start go up. And then I have to catch myself like,
yeah, because that's a big difference. For radio, you can hide a lot. It's just your voice.
Exactly. And so TV is more restrictive. And I'll say this, I've been in this country 13 years, and I-95 is the only place I've worked where I can say this. Nobody, absolutely nobody, has ever tried to interfere with my content or my interviews. I-95.
So where were you in TV first?
Oh, CNC3 and then
CNC3.
TTT.
And then TTT.
Yeah.
How long were you at CNC3?
6 months.
6 months.
That was a short stint, huh?
Well, that's where I saw you. I think you were doing it. Was it Wassa? Is it Wassa? The water.
Whoa, Mr. Man, don't raise no bacchanal up in this Sunday.
That's where I first saw you, and I stumbled. Oh, who's this? because you weren't letting go of anybody telling you any nonsense. And I sat down and watched the whole thing. It had nothing to do with me, but I was like, "Who's this woman?" And you weren't letting go, and I was like, "Yeah."
He was like, "Y'all gonna come and check out this woman, man? Come and check."
I was like, I tell the guy, like, you know who's not in the court. And that's how I started watching. So it was only 6 months.
Okay, yeah. Listen, I'll forever be grateful for the experience that I got at CNC3 because it was my first time doing television. Yeah. And so it was a learning curve. It wasn't a steep one, but it was still a learning curve. And my producer, she miserable. Her name is Nikisha Alexander. I want to look her up because I want to understand. Nikki, you're miserable. I mean miserable too. So sometimes we would have clashed, but we had a really good working relationship.
Nice.
Because I tell people all the time, when you're in media, it's never I. It's a team effort.
It has to be.
And so one of the things I tried to do at CNC3 was to let the audience know all the people that I worked with. The audio guys, the camera guys, because who is me without them?
Yeah,
what if one day them decide to give me a bad shot at me looking like Gretel or one of them people there or Agatha? You know what I mean? So, but it's a whole team effort. And so I enjoyed that at CNC3. But to me, the issue with CNC3 at the time, and I think management has changed since. So this management, if you need me, call me, and I take offense to what I'm going to say because it not apply to you. But the management at the time, you have, like I remember having this situation, right? And I'm going to tell you, it was when the COVID, the borders were closed, and the Venezuelans were coming in illegally. And it has Living Waters Community, which is run by the Catholic Church. And they register people as refugees. Now, the government has signed the International Convention, but there are no laws here for refugees, right? There are no laws here to deal with refugees, even though it's signed onto the International Convention. So I was on the program one morning, and I can't remember exactly. It was some judgment by some high court judge, I think, at the time. And I agreed with the judgment, and it had to do with sending home some Venezuelans. Now, people might think, oh, but you Jamaican. Yeah, but me is a Jamaican who believe in doing things the right way. And what people don't understand is that I am sympathetic, and it's not even sympathetic, empathetic to the plights that Venezuelans are in. But I also know the issues that can arise if it is not managed. So people want to jump on a wagon and be like, let them in. And I remember saying earlier that the government has to manage the numbers. There has to be.
Yeah, you got to manage it. Yeah.
And I agreed with that, and the government did that, and I was like, well done. So everybody feel now, oh, she on the government side. I'm on the side of common sense. Me's a common sense individual. You think me can just get up and say, oh, you have a population of 30 million and a population of 1.4 in a 2x4 square kilometer. Like, how much people you think you can take in? Like, it's common sense, no matter how empathetic you are towards what's going on in Venezuela.
You got to draw the line somewhere.
I agree.
You have to. So
you can't do anything about people trying to take advantage of that situation and pushing it further to the right with their comments and with the innuendo and the way how they talk about it. But it's absolutely right to manage it.
Yes, you have to. So I went on the program one morning and I was saying, you know, this is what Living Waters community is doing. I can't agree with it because you don't have to me, whether it's Living Waters community, and they do fantastic work with anybody in this country who needs help. People have to understand that you can compartmentalize.
Yeah, and two things can be true.
I can appreciate what Living Waters is doing, and I can love Living Waters and not agree with this particular decision.
Absolutely.
And people don't understand that. Yeah. So when I go on the program and I said, Living Waters community, you know, the prime minister, he's the prime minister, so he can't say how he feels about what Living Waters community is doing. I said, but you, the audience, y'all can burn them out. My manager called me in a meeting to tell me how I am inciting violence because I said we're going to burn down. What burn down have to do with burn out? I said, man, if you don't understand the Jamaican slang, you better ask me to explain. Right? Burn out means you tell somebody your mind.
Yeah.
And there's absolutely nothing wrong with doing that once you do it respectfully. But she did not understand the slang. Yeah, and she came into but she didn't come into the meeting to figure out what it meant, or she came into the meeting when she looked a short self puffing and puffing. And I was like, so, and then.
But what was the reaction to the audience, though, from the audience?
The audience was fine. My audience is always fine because my audience is who I work for. I know you paying me, but I work for that audience, and the people who listen to me, they know that.
Yeah, they know you and
understand where you're coming from.
Yes. Yeah. You who employ me, you're the conduit, but you are not my final employer. That's why I'll always get. That is why I will always get work, right? Because at the end of the day, my responsibility, my first responsibility is to the people, not you. As much as you employ me, and I appreciate the employment, but we live in a Caribbean. We don't want that. The politician, them skin thinner than your face mask, right? Them want you to say things that are not true for them look good. They want to be doing shit, and they want you to quote it to make it look like a patty. It's not a patty. It's crap.
But when is a good, interesting point you're making there, because when we had Julian Rogers on a few months back, or even a few years back, he mentioned, we asked him about this and about journalists being able to push the envelope with our politicians and what have you. And I know he himself has had some running over the years with different prime ministers across the region. And he did mention, you know, the fact that sometimes vindictiveness can play a part as to how far a journalist might be willing to go. Did that ever enter your mind when you try to push the envelope of it?
Is that a question? Is that a question?
Yeah, but how you do is a question, yeah.
No, man, that is not a question. That's a statement. That's not a question. That's a statement. I don't think there's any journalist in this country who does not consider that, because that's the environment that we're in.
Okay. And then how did it play into how you approach your work?
It didn't change anything that I did. It just meant that I wouldn't be on the job for long. That's all.
But do you because if you search for Natalee Legore, you're always going to see that you're employed in Trinidad under some kind of CSME agreement or whatever it is that people do in CARICOM, right? Did it ever, come to your mind, putting the question a slightly different way, that is it easier at some point if they get vindictive with me, they're going to say, you know what, you see you, back to Kingston.
Of course, people used to tell me that all the time, Natalie. I know you just come and you don't know Julian Rogers. That's how I knew that.
Oh Lord,
Julian Rogers.
I was gonna say, because Trinidad was one of the places
I literally got introduced to Julian Rogers through my audience, who kept telling me, Natalie, pull back, pull back, pull back.
You better remember Julian.
Okay.
That's how I knew. I didn't know him at the time. That's how I ended up meeting him. Because I kept hearing, mind them send you home like Julian. And I tell them, look here, me had a good life in Jamaica. You know, the hungriest life me ever have is in this country. So why don't you be afraid to go home? And it was true, because people feel that, you know, just because you move, it means that your life, a lot of people move for different reasons. My life was very good in Jamaica. It's Trinidad, me come start dialysis because it's a stressful environment. Me never know this level of stress when I was in Jamaica. In Jamaica, you worry about the crime, and you worry about the crime if you're involved. The average Jamaican, yes, you know, this might happen and that might happen, and so it naturally you'd be concerned. But Jamaica does not, at least up to the time when I left there, have the reputation of somebody would just be gunned down for no good reason. It does not happen. Here, it can happen, because a man will come to rob you, and if you feel you talk too hard or you disrespect the boss, next you know it's a bullet. So that it has that subtle difference, right? But it's a fundamental subtle difference. So I know it has that vindictiveness. I am sure of it. And I remember, you know, when it had the state of emergency in 2011, right? Let me tell you something. You know, a woman's intuition, man was feeling so uncomfortable. Now, mind you, me know nothing. I'm a journalist, but I just felt so uncomfortable. And I went to the Jamaican High Commission at the time. It was a woman. And I requested a meeting with her, and I said, I'm feeling so uncomfortable. I don't know what it is, because, and I remember even talking to my boss at the time, Louis Leasing, about it. And I don't know if Louis would remember this. And you know what this woman said to me? And this is why I will always work for the people. Well, you know, Natalie, I'm so happy that you came, because a senior government official they had some I don't know if it's was at the High Commission, complained about what I was doing on the radio. And she is just asking me to pull back. I said,
wow.
Have you ever listened to the show? She said, well, no, but you know, I've heard people talk. Look here, I just left the office. A meeting done. So, because you never listen to my show yet, you don't have no idea what I'm saying. But you're coming to tell me to pull back.
Give me some advice. What? So when you say uncomfortable, what you meant by uncomfortable, that you felt as though you were being forced to go against your principles and integrity, or you felt unsafe? What you meant by uncomfortable?
I felt unsafe. I tell you, at I-95, there was never that. I never had no issues with principles or principalities, right? I was comfortable in I-95. That's to date my most comfortable working environment, right? But I felt unsafe, and I could not say why. So when she told me that, I was like, okay, well, now I know why I'm feeling so.
No, you know why.
Yes, now I understood why I was feeling that way, because, you know, I just, I don't know. So I know that it has that. Like when I was at TTT, I remember, you know, like,
this is the morning show.
You book an interview, and next thing you know, you get a message that the interview has been canceled. And I was like, who canceled the interview? That's my first question.
Okay.
Who? You can never get a straight answer. Why was the interview canceled? Well, you know, just management just thought that because you're bringing somebody on the program, the person is probably going to not agree with the government, and the government thinks it doesn't want any bad press. And whether it was the government or the management or the board, somebody is protecting the government from getting bad press. You can't do that.
So it wasn't necessarily the guests themselves that was canceling.
The machinery behind the scene.
It wasn't necessarily the guests that was canceling. It was the machinery.
Yes. So my way of dealing with that was, okay, if you want to cancel the guest, you tell the guest that you're canceling, and you find a replacement. I remember telling my CEO that, because I find that it is unprofessional.
It is.
Right? You can't, as I'm telling you, I can't tell you who took those decisions. I can't tell if it's the board because it's a state enterprise, it's a state television station. I can't tell if it's the management. I can't tell you if it is somebody within the government. I will never be able to answer that question. What I know is that on several occasions, my interviews were canceled.
Right.
Wow.
Right? And I don't want people to act as if, oh God, they're so surprised, because at the time, one of my guests was the commissioner of police. And by this time, he and Dr. Rowley had fallen out.
This is
So
Gary Griffith.
Gary Griffiths.
I booked him. Listen, I am a journalist. I am not here to take up anybody's beefs. Me no have no beef with nobody. Right? As chicken me eat. Me no have no beef with nobody. So my thing is, if there's a current issue, bring whomever it is on to deal with it.
And talk about it. Yeah. It's the people's right to understand as well.
To know.
As a government, you can come. I tell them, this is a state enterprise. Anytime when you want to come in for an interview and you can come, I will give way to that. Right? But don't cancel whomever I have on the show. I remember telling a senior government minister, don't expect me to fight your beefs for you. Mister, what if I'm to go on the television now and tell people you cancel my guests because you have a beef? Mister, as a matter of fact, give me a list of all the people who you think you approve of, and I'll call them from that list.
This is true.
No, this is the first time I'm saying this publicly, but this was what happened when I was at TTT.
Wow.
No, let me tell you this from now. Somebody at TTT done messaging somebody else at TTT, and somebody else messaging some government minister to say, Natalee said this. But is it true? And if it is true, don't blame Natalee. Blame whomever canceled the interview, because you should allow the program to go. I am not in the Prime Minister's cabinet. I don't need anybody from the cabinet in my studio. Unless invited for us to sit and chalk up the issues. I've done interviews with the Prime Minister and I ask the questions and he answers them. Leave it up to the public to determine if they're satisfied with the answers, yes or no.
Yeah. Obvious. That's how it should be.
Okay.
Yeah. 100%.
That's exactly how it should be. I want to change that slightly, but we can come back to this, but slightly, because you mentioned it a few times about lupus and your dialysis, and you've been quite open about your lupus diagnosis. When were you first diagnosed, and how are you coping?
Hey, how much time you have?
We got time.
How much you want to give? We here. Yeah.
I mean, I want to talk about it because there is still stigma around some of these illnesses. People don't want people to know that they're sick. And I always say, if people don't know where you are, they can't meet you there.
Yeah.
Good point.
I'll say that again. If people don't know where you are, they cannot meet you there.
Yeah.
So this feeling ashamed because I have to go through this, I cannot subscribe to that. Because I did not ask myself to be sick. I did not tell myself to be sick. Well, maybe emotionally, psychologically, and subconsciously, but it wasn't a deliberate thing. These things do happen. And, we get stressed, but I was diagnosed with lupus when I was either 14 or 15 years old. I was in high school and I was having difficulties with my fingers. I remember one of the time I had my finger kind of locked and I couldn't like straighten them. It was so much pain. And I'll thank my father for this, because he would take me to all my doctor's appointments. Not that he had a choice. There was nobody else to do it, but he still did it. So he would have to take me to Mandeville to a rheumatologist is who we see for our lupus, just to ensure that I was okay. But when I just started out, it was rough. I remember just, as always, a kind of smally person, and I just got so fat with the steroids. When I was graduating, Daddy used to call me moon face, because I'd gotten so plump and my cheeks were like, and there are times when it would look, your face look like it balloons. It looks unnatural.
Yeah.
So I was diagnosed there, and I was I had flares. I remember having a flare, I think it was 2001. Yeah. And, simple little things can trigger your lupus. The exposure to the sun, stress, just stress is one of our worst enemies with lupus. Fatigue. Fatigue, and the symptoms are wide. They're plenty. It's the fatigue, it's the lack of sleep, it's the loss of hair, it's the rashes all over your body, the hives, it's the pain, it's the swelling, it's the deterioration of the bone, it's the failure of the organs, which is how I ended up on dialysis, because my diagnosis is lupus nephritis, because the lupus damaged my kidneys.
Your kidneys. Right? Okay.
So, but for my first, I was never hospitalized until I came here. The first time I went into the hospital was 2014 when I started dialysis. That was my first hospitalization in my life. So I think I did well enough, but obviously not good enough because the kidneys still failed, right? And when I started dialysis, it was nothing can prepare you for that. Nothing can prepare you for the changes that are going to happen to your body, to your emotions, to your life, because it's time consuming. I have to go to dialysis 3 times a week. That's my schedule, is Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But yeah, and I worked through that, right?
I was just going to say, you were clearly having to balance that with the demands of the work you were doing over the years. Yes. Wow.
Yeah. Incredible. So and dialysis, I tell people, like, no, when I'm not working full time, if I have to go to dialysis, let's say I get up at 9 and I get into town for 11 and I may start dialysis 11:30, which means I'll finish about 4 hours, 12, 1 to 3:30, which really means 4, because you still have to come off the machine. The treatment time is 4 hours. So you need a 15 minutes to go on and a 15 minutes to come off, plus that 4. So it's really 4.5 hours in that center, right? And then the journey back home.
Yeah,
now tell me what else am I doing for that day?
Yeah, that day go.
That's it. So what I did is that what is access to dialysis like? Thanks for the question, Angela. In my time, I found it was fine. There aren't enough machines in the healthcare system, but one of the things that the government did or does is to outsource the service. So it pays private centers to accommodate people who are in the healthcare system, because the hospitals themselves just don't have enough machines. But I know that there were plans to open a whole dialysis unit at the Couva Hospital. I don't know if that plan is still in the book. I remember the minister talking about it. So I hope that they do it, because it would help their pockets as well, because it's a very expensive lifestyle. I cannot emphasize that enough. But the difficulty with dialysis is that no 2 days are the same, and you never know how you're going to feel during treatment or after treatment, or what the recovery time is going to be like.
Okay.
I have a level of bad mind in me, as you all realize by now, so I recover. Right? I recover because I can't afford to let it keep me down. Doesn't mean I don't have bad days. I have days where, Lord Jesus, sometimes I'll be like, Lord, fix it. Like, you need to, like I thought we had a good relationship. What go on? Organize yourself, no man. Yeah, man, organize yourself, because me tell people all the time, me a hard life no agree. Me no love hard life. I don't believe in this Caribbean philosophy where if you want good, you know what's have to run. Me want good, me no need the whole flu where I mash up my system, forget it. Just work for it. You understand? So it's rough. It's a rough life. I'm not even going to no insurance. I'm not aware of insurance. I don't know, because I've never been insured for my health since it being 18. When I was younger, I was on my father's health insurance, but nobody's going to insure me. The system does not help those who need help. That's the reality. And people need to just be honest about it. No insurance company, because the first thing they're thinking, it's not profitable for them to insure me. So because they don't care about my health, they don't care about my health. They don't care if I live, I die. What they care about is what their bottom line is in terms of dollars and cents. So nobody's going to cover me. Anything I have to do, if I have to go outside of Trinidad and I have to do dialysis, I have to pay for it out of pocket. And the most I've ever paid is $350 per session.
Wow.
Right? And the cheapest I've ever paid is the center that I use in Montego Bay, Zurich Dialysis Center. And I remember writing to them and just explaining my situation. I'm only working 2 days a week by this time. From 2014 to 2020, I was just doing 2 days a week because I hardly pay my bills. Thank you, Sissy. Thank you. And anybody else who helped, because if you're not called their name, they might vex. But
I just want to talk about lupus. Go back there because sometimes we call it by name, but how do you understand it as a disease? What is it? What is happening?
So lupus is your own body fighting against itself because it doesn't read you properly. So it sees something and it reads it as a foreign object. And your body is meant, your defense system is there to fight off anything that's foreign. So it's fighting you, not recognizing you and seeing you as something that's foreign. So your body's constantly waging this war with itself. And with that comes the breakdown, the organ failure.
So it's active fighting against your own organs, your normal operations. Yeah.
And so what they do with lupus is to use the steroids to suppress the immune system.
The immune system. Yeah.
So you suppress the immune system so that you don't have this tug of war constantly with your body, and
but then that opens you up to actual viruses coming in.
Yeah. But I have to say, when it comes on to that, I've done pretty good.
Well, I was just going to say, to have gone through the career that you were going through at the moment, and to be doing what you've had to do to stay alive and to keep going, that takes some incredible grit and determination. And
bad mind.
The toughness of the farm, man. That's the toughness of the farm now coming through.
No, you see, this is where you'll appreciate the Caribbean culture, because they grow you up so rough that it builds resilience.
100%.
But I just want my family to know I'm resilient, thank you, but I'm also traumatized. And if you'll just admit that and accept that, we can move on. But you will not force me to keep my mouth shut and not share my story. I notice with the camera. Yes. You'll not force me. No, because it's a problem, man. It's a problem. And you have to recognize that even though we grow in the same environment, your story is not my story. And you have to allow me to share my story and speak my truth. It's not yours.
Agreed.
And you should be more offended about what I went through, and you didn't go through it, especially if you didn't have that same outcome. Why are you so offended? Right? If you can be hurt by me sharing it, then why can't you understand that I'm hurt by experiencing it?
We were talking about therapy at the beginning. And with everything that you've gone through or I'm going through, have you ever had therapy or been to a
True
therapist?
story. So when I was at TTT, I had the worst year in my life in terms of my health at TTT. Some people say it's necromancy. Some people say obia is wickedness in high places, because I stepped into TTT the 1st of March. And by the 3rd of April, my dialysis access stopped working. So I went into the hospital and they did a minor surgery to see if they could fix it. Didn't work. So they had to give me a temporary catheter, a femoral catheter, which means that they bore you in your groin and push that tube in, comes out on your leg. Yeah, I want to be very graphic so that people understand this dialysis life. And that means forget exercising, forgetting walking up and down a lot, forget doing a lot of stairs. They don't recommend these things when you have a femoral catheter. But I went to the theater to get that femoral catheter. The catheter was placed. I cried. I cried through that entire thing because I was not prepared for it. I went because I had a catheter before on my chest. Somehow I was expecting to get back a catheter on my chest. And I was not prepared for a woman to be coming to shave my vagina and to be touching me up. And I felt fucking humiliated.
Violated.
I felt violated. I cried through the entire thing. And they're asking me, why are you crying? Is it that you're feeling pain? Is it that you're uncomfortable? And I remember started doing this. You develop these unconscious habits when you're under immense stress. And this is what I did. At the time, I had both hands to get through that surgery. And it wasn't a surgery under general anesthesia, it's local.
Wow.
I came out of that theater. I went straight to dialysis, and the damn catheter not working good.
Oh, gee.
Oh.
So I am still in a position of vulnerability, because if I can't dialyze, I die.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay, this surgery, the one that they did to try to save the access that was in my hand, it ended up in infection. So now I have to go and remove the access that was in my hand. That ended up in severe nerve damage.
Ooh.
I wasn't even out of that. Remember, this I started April. This is in June. The surgery to remove it was June, right? April, May, June. July, they called me to do a parathyroidectomy to remove 2 of my parathyroid glands, because that's one of the spin-offs of dialysis. There are so many other complications that will arise as a result of being on dialysis, and nobody counsels you about these things before. You better make sure so check on the kidneys, because it's not easy around here. So I did this surgery. Notice this nice scar? Okay. So this is July. They called me in September to try to create another access. Now, not on the left hand, but on the right. You want to guess what happened with that right hand?
Nerve damage again?
No, don't say nerve, just nerve damage. Severe nerve damage. So here I am, going in and out of hospital. And every time I came out of the hospital, I went straight back to that show. And I was getting to the point until somebody called me, a traumatologist called me. I said, Natalee, are you okay? I don't know what he saw, because I couldn't even speak about it at the time, because I was so fucking traumatized. I went into work and I told them, I can't talk about it. The minute I went back to work, and I was just out the hospital, back to work, in the hospital, out the hospital, back to work, back in the hospital. And between April to December, I was in that hospital 6 times.
Wow.
In the space of 8 months.
8 months.
Wow.
So it when he called me, and I was like, no, I'm okay. And I was like, if you want to talk, and I was like, no. He just started asking me some questions. I got a whole Hanif Benjamin, thank you.
So did you know him before, or he saw you on TV and said something went wrong?
I know he's a traumatologist, but it's not as if I'd ever spoken to him about my life.
Right. So, but he was seeing something.
He saw some triggers.
He reached out to me.
Oh, that's good.
And I'm so grateful for that.
Well,
that
really
somebody saw that I needed help. Because it got to the point where I had to hire a helper. Geddes had to be driving me around. Auntie Alisa had to move in with me. And I remember growing so resentful of needing all that help, because as much as I've been sick all my life, I've never I learned to survive. I learned to rely only on me. And it doesn't mean that I didn't have people who were there with me, I had a lot of people over the years who've been there with me, but I know I'm self-sufficient. I know what to do to take care of myself, and I do try to take care of myself. But that day when that man called me, Hanif Benjamin, thank you. And people don't know that. So y'all are getting a lot of first news around here.
No, but it's inspiring, Natalee. And I don't mean that lightly, because I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, but we went through COVID. and I'm sure the whole trauma of that experience and having to deal with everything that you would have been dealing with normally would have been so difficult and compounded. But you're here bearing it all and saying, look, but here I am. I'm still going. I'm still going. And
people don't know. I tell people this all the time, that y'all don't know half of my life. I share, and you still don't know half of my life. Because if you are to ask me to this day how I got through 2021, I cannot tell you. I think 2021 was when I meant the literal meaning of one day at a time. One day at a time. I couldn't do anything more than that at that point. It was just one day at a time. There weren't any elaborate plans. There weren't any. It was just get through today, get through the show. After you get through the show, get through physiotherapy. After you get through physiotherapy, get through dialysis, get home, plan, prepare. And the thing is, I always like to book my own interviews. So I'm constantly in research mode and booking mode. Because I don't.
It's a heavy burden.
Yeah. And no time to reflect, be retrospective, and rest. Rest is the main thing that you got to make sure you get that. Otherwise, the body's not necessarily repairing itself as it should.
I don't even know. There are times when I sleep. When I stopped working at TTT, they didn't renew the contract. But I had a conversation with my CEO in December and told him if he didn't want to renew the contract, I would be fine with it because I cannot give the show the stability that it needs. I'm a journalist first, so I understand how these things can affect. The people need somebody who can be there, not just show up. You show up, you're there April, then you just disappear for a week, then you come back, then you're gone in July for 2 weeks, then you come back, then you're gone in May, then you're gone in September, then you're gone in December. It's not fair to the audience, and I know this. So
that's very interesting there. You're going through that, and so you come back saying it's not fair to the audience.
Thinking of the audience.
That's a very interesting reflection there, right? You're still
it's
thinking
not fair
of the
to them because the audience did not choose me because I was sick. They chose me because I'm a journalist and they like what I bring to the table. So it's not fair for me to burden them with my illness.
I understand that. There's something there you said that resonated with me a lot because Mark and Andre know me well, but there's always this thing that where people say, "Oh, don't worry, Phil, he could take care of himself," right? And that's one of the journeys I'm going through in my head. Where usually when people ask me, "What sort of help you need?" I'd be like, "No, I'm good. I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Yeah.
I got this," and I would go into my head and start to sort out things and come back with an idea, and then start to implement the idea on my own. And I started, and so this year I've been thinking about it a lot, and I've been saying, this has to be my year of being helped, of not trying to, and I use a metaphor of creating music.
Listen,
because sometimes you can,
it for me, it's difficult to accept help, and it's even more difficult if I have to beg for help. I hate having to ask anybody for help because especially if you know me intimately, you know what I'm going through, and you want me to come and beg you, it's degrading. It is degrading, and I wish some of my family members could understand this. It is degrading.
But I think this is the thing that we have to don't feel as though asking somebody is begging, right? And that is the sort of I understand that, and that's why I say what you're saying is resonating so much with me because I'm feeling that same need to reorient my thinking and reorient my mind with regards to connecting with people for help, and the sort of help that you need is sometimes just capacity, sometimes just connection, sometimes just people to chat with you through things.
Phil, let me tell you something. I have grown up all my life. Even as a child, people recognized my strength. I didn't know I have it, but people recognized it in me. That means people don't help you. People expect you to be able to deal with everything. That's a curse. And it's a curse that you constantly try to live up to because everybody keeps telling you you're so strong.
You're so strong.
You don't want to prove them wrong. You don't want to prove them wrong. You want to be able to live up to that reputation because the things that you are doing, you weren't doing them because you felt you were strong. You were doing them because you needed to survive. But the thing is, a lot of people probably we take it for granted that everybody understands how to survive when they're going through things. It's as I've gotten older, I realize that it's a gift we have because we will be going through it, and I will literally get up and be like, Natalie, how are you going to get out of this? How are you going to fix this? What is it that you need to do? I guarantee you there's not one patient in Trinidad and Tobago who reads up as much as I do about dialysis I will sit for hours, and it goes from dialysis. What is parathyroid disease? What happens to your glands? I will do anything, everything. If I do an echocardiogram, any doctor when me pass me and ask him, so doc, what does this mean? And then I compare notes between doctors. You hear me tell you? And then I'll be like, this one you're a quack, man. You don't even know where man do. Because common sense, after you speak to several people, will kind of give you a picture, an idea of what the real picture is. I do that for me. Somebody might see that as strong because some people don't have the courage to do it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I didn't be like, yeah, I'm strong, I'm going to do this. No. I'm like, I need to live, so let me do this.
Yeah. I think that's the right part.
It's the desire. My desire to live outweighs my fear of dying. So that desire to live and the bad mind to prove to people that you can live.
No, bad mind is good. It's how you channel the bad mind, right?
I tell people that all the time. I remember telling a hairdresser of mine that a girl who braids my hair, and she was like, Natalie, I'm going to take that. I said, don't have bad mind for other people. Have it for yourself. Because it's really a way of you. It's really determination. To me, bad mind and determination are the same thing. I can interchange them. It's the ability to say, I am not going to give up.
No, that's fantastic.
I came close. I think that's 2021, I came close. Even 2020, I wasn't in the hospital, but I remember for months telling my stepmother that I was going to die, how my body was feeling. I don't think, and maybe it was just stress, because the minute I started working at CNC3, I felt better. Maybe I'd gotten to the point where doing 2 days at I-95 and earning $4,000 a month was insufficient. Any Trini on this life can tell you $4,000 a month. You have to live like a...
Because you got to live, right? So the stress of living.
You have to live like a scrunter.
You're probably at your limits, man.
Yeah.
Right at your limits.
I think so.
Yeah, that isn't necessary.
Well,
no, go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I was going to say, look, I think it's fantastic that you're being so open and vulnerable with us. Thank you so much for that. Because I'm sure you're helping a lot of people, not some people that understanding your story and what's not, but a lot of people go through a lot of things, don't necessarily share, but they learn how to cope sometimes or make some decisions to better themselves when they hear other people willing to be so openly expressive about what they're going through. So thank you so much for that, Natalie. A little change in topic. Have you traveled extensively across the region?
Sorry?
Have you traveled extensively across the region?
Unfortunately, no. I'd like to. Listen, the reality is that if I was not on dialysis, I don't think I was gonna be the thing. No, because I like the idea of, people have to understand that growth means exposure. You can grow so much and no more in the same environment. What you do after a while is just learn the nuances, but the growth to me becomes a stagnant after a while. And I may be wrong, but that's just how I think. It doesn't mean that I can't grow in my career, but that growth is just going to be how much more I learn about the career. But I mean, what else am I going to do? Is it that somebody's going to say, okay, go from being a talk show host to a manager? It's just a new title. It's still in media. And of course, there will be a learning curve, but I think a huge part of growing is understanding people and their cultures, because like I just saw Angela put a title from a book, Submitting to God. The first thing you should have asked me is if I believe in God. No, I do, but it's the assumptions that we make about each other, and not understanding that my life and my belief may have absolutely nothing to do with your life and your beliefs. Absolutely. They could be completely different.
We don't all come from the same place. Absolutely.
Yeah. And the difference is what we fail to understand is that it's okay for us to think differently. There's nothing more irritating to me than somebody Christianity is better than Islam, and Islam is better than Hinduism, and Hinduism is better than Buddhism. Mr. Man, you're entitled to your Christian belief, you're entitled to your Muslim belief, you're entitled to your Hindu belief, everybody entitled. And you can't force a man to accept your entitlement and your beliefs. Just respect it. You know why you believe what you believe. You know why you serve the God that you serve. But you can't tell another man that he's less than because he doesn't think the way you do. You're mad.
Yeah.
You're real mad.
Well, look, there's some real encouragement coming over the chat from on the back of this conversation, and I'm gonna change that slightly now too as well, because a little birdie told me today. This is the last thing I want to query with you. Somebody wrote me today and said, you know, she got an amazing voice though. she could sing real good, you know.
What?
That's one wicked smutty.
I started dancing on the morning show and thing, but I
don't know. You have to tell me actually, because I didn't know this. It's true.
Listen, Philip is my kindred spirit. We know how to make good teas.
Wow.
Okay?
He got a piano behind him there, you know. There's a little keyboard behind him.
Give me a C there, Phil. Give me a C. Let me see what she come up with.
I got it. Rock on then.
He's a singer too, you know, Natalie.
Oh, really? Go ahead. Let me hear you.
No, I'm not ready to sing tonight. No, I was going to talk about music earlier, you know, because
Riri did not get to be in Rihanna the most, the highest paid entertainer in the world by saying, well, you know, I'm not ready and I got to do this.
Well, that's okay. We went to the same school, but my aspirations are very different.
You have, oh God.
Look at here, look. Yeah, all coming up now. I know it will come out, man. Come out, thanks.
What Jennifer should say is the amount of times me lose and come last. Jennifer, what wrong with you? No, but I actually won it 1 year.
Hey,
you won it.
I did.
That means there's talent.
Of course.
No, whoa. Disclaimer. Our I-95.5 stand-up 10 competition, which we do around carnival time, has absolutely nothing to do with talent.
Okay.
Nothing.
It's all about this.
Rest in peace.
Not even 10% participation.
It's all about this.
Not even 10. Listen
so if it's that means your participation was the best.
It just means that the audience, they love what you're saying. Trinis love
people,
Bacchanal. So
the people asking for the thing.
Oh, you delve into the Bacchanal.
I won because, yes, I had a Bacchanal kind of finish to the song.
You had the crowd going mad.
Yes.
Yeah.
It has
understood the culture.
It was all about the lyrics, Phil. It was all about the lyrics. All about
the lyrics. Yeah, that's true.
Nothing to do with talent. Nothing whatsoever. No, let me tell you, nothing. Talent, zero. People's choice, that was one of the things. The spirit of the competition. You hear what we judge on?
Spirit, a nice word.
Okay.
Because we know we can't sing. Like one of my former co-hosts, he died about 3-4 years ago. Wayne Chance, may he rest in peace. Watch me. You ever see a man can hold a note to save in life?
No.
And when the beating people in that competition, all me. You hear? Wayne came out 1 year. The people in pain, and the crowd loved it. Like talent.
He was in pain too.
I'm telling you.
Wow.
I'm telling you.
It doesn't sound as though she's going to hit some octaves for us anyway. Back to you, Drema.
No. That's all right. She get away.
Yeah.
No, if Philip will back me up, I'll sing.
Oh.
I don't have the keyboard plug-in at the moment. But what backing you want? I can back you up vocally if you want that.
Yes. So we're gonna do Bob Marley. Oh my God, no.
Hey.
Bob Marley.
What are you doing, man?
It's too predictable. Let's do Buju Banton's the song that he did when he came out of prison, because that song spoke to my whole heart, my vagina, my breast, my hands, my whole body. Okay. So you know the song?
No. Remind me. Run the lyrics there.
Said I was buried alive. All right, no, I need a key. So let me show you.
La 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 la. Ooh, she know. Ooh, but she big there, man. But yeah.
Let me look here.
All right, let me find it and see if we can catch the notes.
Catch the tune, man. Catch the note.
Catch a
Be
note.
all right. Be all right.
Yeah.
Would you band son?
We got a smile.
Spirit.
Hey, y'all should know this song. You know, this is a song.
Not ready.
All right.
All right, folks, get ready. Here we go.
No, here. Hold on.
Natalee Legore has never seen before.
Seen or heard.
The I-95. Sound like she catch the tune there.
Sin was buried alive, but I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I've got a feeling. I am alive. There must be a reason.
Wow.
I was given one more chance. My heart's still beating. Buried alive, but I'm still breathing. I don't know what tomorrow may bring, but I've got a feel. I'm alive. There must be a reason. I was given one more chance. My heart's still beating.
Wow.
I've been running against the wind, friends of mine. Time, only living a life of sin. Never give up, I'll never give in. It's my determination to win. I survived the worst of times. I survived. All right, McCammon.
Wow.
We clapping.
Wow.
I see why that speak to you. Yeah, I see.
Indeed.
Yes.
Yeah. Listen.
I mean, I can't. He's talking about his prison sentence, but listen, sometimes life itself can be a prison, you know. We're imprisoned in different ways. Some of us are imprisoned in our relationships, some of us in our jobs, some of us with our families. I mean, there's so many ways to have that mental shackle, and trust me, I know I have them. So at least that's the first step to healing.
Yeah,
indeed.
Is admitting that I need to deal with some things. So
indeed.
I was just going to ask you a quick question there as well. How do you feel about the people around you? Who's your sort of core network of people around you?
I have a really great support.
Not that I send in an application. I just want to know about them.
No, I would say I have a really, really good a great support system right here in Trinidad. And even my family, I may not always appreciate how they treat me, but I know that they love me, and I know that they support me. They just have to learn how to express themselves differently and to meet me where I am at, instead of asking me to meet them. I'm the one who is in need of help. When somebody is in need of help, you meet them where they're at. You can't ask them to meet you, because then I don't understand it, because it doesn't apply to me what you're trying to give to me. It's not what I need. You give people what they need in their time of need, not what you think you want to give or what you think they want. Find out what they need and give it to them, because we know what we need. We know the kind of help that we need a lot of times.
Yeah.
But I think I have a really good, I'll tell you this, and I'm sure my family will be upset, but that's fine, because I've gotten to the age where I'm learning to let go of how my family feels. Other people, I was always very good with, because I always say your opinion has absolutely nothing to do with me. But you don't have that feeling towards family, because this is the army that God gave you. These are the soldiers that you expect to fight for you and ride with you and go into battle with you. And so therefore you have expectations of them. But you see what Allison and Geddes Granger have done for me, Rachel and Charles's parents, nobody has done that for me in my life.
Yeah.
What they have gone above and beyond what my stepmother has ever done. It's not even close. What my dad has ever done, it's not even close. Now, somebody might say, well, you're in Trinidad and they're there. That's true. But I spent 30 years in Jamaica, so I think I should know. And I've gotten more in the 13 years here than I got in the entire 30 years in Jamaica. And that's no exaggeration. And I'll tell you this, has absolutely nothing to do with monetary support.
Yeah.
People have to understand, meet me where I'm at.
Fantastic.
Meet me where I'm at. A lot of times, all I need is a listening ear or somebody to understand what I'm going through. Or, listen, Auntie Allison has never missed a hospital visit. She's never missed. Every time I drop in here, they're on. Without fail. Without fail. I cannot tell you of one hospital visit where they weren't there. Not one.
Well,
every medication that I need, their niece, Portia, Mrs. Charles. Oh God, I love Mrs. Charles to a fault, and we don't always get along. And I tell people that you can have the worst argument with somebody, but you know what they bring to the table. Right? If Mrs. Charles doesn't hear from me, she takes up the phone and calls me. Something I'd have to beg my father to do. Every time I just there go call you, but it never happens. You know, it's just not. It's not. You want people to know, to see you. That's what we come on this life, and we just want people to be able to see us. And sometimes they make me feel invisible. You know, and you wonder. You know, you come to this country and have all these people giving you all these accolades, and they so love you. And where you want it from the most, you can't get a sentence. That hurts. That hurts.
Yeah. Well, I want to thank you so much, Natalee. Listen,
indeed.
when we started on this journey to have this conversation, look, we didn't expect to land here, but I think we've landed in an exceptionally good place.
In the right place.
We've landed in a good place, and you know the love and the pouring and everything happening there in the chat for you is immense. You know, there are a lot of people there who now are acquainted with the Natalee Legore story and the journey and the life. And you know, certainly from the three of us, three Bajan guys who just talking and having a conversation, you know, you've really opened up a lot of things, very important areas for us to not just go away and reflect, but to go away and take some action on. So look, I want to thank you so much for
100%.
Just for everything that you've just opened up to us this evening, man. It's been tremendous.
You're welcome.
Indeed,
and thanks for giving me the platform. I told you all, I am at the point in my life where I'm putting me first, and therefore my feelings matter. And if you're offended by my feelings, take it to God in prayer.
Good place.
I agree with that. And as Mark said, just
to their feelings.
To reiterate what Mark has said just now as well, it is, you know, as wise words from Toy Story, you got a friend in me. So you're part of the Global family. You know, you're part of the Global family now. So we'll definitely be always reaching out and having a chat and just being, you know, seeing how you're doing. As well on this journey, because I think that's what you need to do as you meet new people in different places and on their journey.
You need to. How else do you grow?
Exactly.
Because now I know Philip.
Yeah. We connected.
Yeah.
Mark is like we were never here, Mark.
Don't worry about it, man. Don't worry about it.
We connected.
No. Mark and I are good. He made eye contact. That's all it took.
I was trying to figure out our connection, but I figured it out tonight. So
Yeah.
We good. We good.
You see, sometimes you don't know until you know, right?
Indeed.
You just know that there is something, and then when the person opens up, you'll be like, oh yeah, she thinks like me.
I see what's going on.
Before we go, Helen asks a question. What next for Natalee?
I don't know. That's the beauty of life. I don't know. And it's okay to be 43 and not know. I mean, too much pressures in life, man.
Birthday was Friday. Man. Happy belated birthday.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Absolutely.
Oh my God, yes. Do you all want to sing happy birthday for me?
We'll leave that for Phil. We will leave that for Phil.
Hit it, Phil.
No, I want all three of you. Don't pass
what?
It might be a bit of timing lag, but Phil.
No, don't worry. I want all three of you.
What we could do is each do a line. So I'll start, then pass to Andre. Andre pass to Mark.
Solutions, we go around. Man. Solutions Barbados, man.
You see, but this is what I'm trying to. I don't want to be coming up.
That's why we're kindred spirits. We're solution oriented.
But you see, this is the challenge because we try to come up with the solutions and the execution as well. Right, and you can't do it all.
Exactly.
But anyway, I will start off.
Go, Phil.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, dear Natalee.
Happy birthday to you.
There you go.
Yeah. You can end it on the 7th. You can end it on the 7th, man.
You gotta keep back some secrets. Gotta keep back some things, you know.
I'm surprised. Listen, I expected Phil to come out, but when we hear Mark come out, Andre come out,
oh my word!
So now you come another show.
All right, now you all can close the show.
That's right. Natalee, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Look, from the outpouring of love in the chat and in the streams, you can see there are a lot of people who are there to support you, and so many people who are probably hearing some of your story for the first time, or at least hearing it in such detail as well. And everyone is just thanking you for your openness, honesty, and vulnerability. And as a team, we want to thank you for that as well. Thank you so much for stopping by the living room and having a chat with us.
I'm a journalist, so I have to have the last word.
Go ahead.
Last
word.
Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of West Indies Global, we want to thank you so much for being with us here today. Please join us next week at 3 p.m. Trinity time, 2 p.m. Jamaica time, where we chalk up the discussions and we'll have a new guest for you. You definitely don't want to miss that.
We need to get her on every show.
Definitely. Let's close the show, guys.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you so much for joining us.
You're
See
welcome.
you guys next time.
Take care.
Buried alive. But